Today's guest is Adrian Miller, an American music entertainment executive who also is the owner and managing partner of Xyion Inc. Some of his notable work will be WuTang Clan American Saga as a music supervisor, The Jungle is the Only Way Out by Mariba, and Malibu by Anderson .Paak. In fact, under Miller's management, Anderson went on to win numerous Grammy Awards, with Miller serving as executive producer on all his albums. It's important to note that Adrian Miller had also worked alongside Paul Stewart, and he collaborated with acts like Coolio, Daz Dillinger, The Far Side. We're talking real music history legends. It's important to note that many wonder if the qualities of entrepreneurship are the same across all industries. And while there are some things you can learn about being an entrepreneur, there are also certain things that you're simply born with. And I believe Adrian Miller really proves this in the conversation today. Where others might argue the right place, the right time, Adrian Miller has always lived by the right people in the right places. And I think any entrepreneur can agree with that. So I won't belabor the point anymore. Without further ado, Adrian Miller. So what does it mean to be an entrepreneur in entertainment? And is that different from other entrepreneurs you come across outside of qualities? I mean, like day-to-day doing.
I think what it means is that you don't work for corporate America. You make your own time as much as you make up your own decisions about what you should be doing with that time. I admire the entrepreneur spirit, but I've also been very cautious to understand that we are here to grow businesses that should grow and it would have the opportunities to become scalable. You know, Warner Brothers was a business started by two brothers, and now it's a corporation. So, you know, those things grow. Caterpillars turn into butterflies. So I admire the entrepreneur spirit, and I do my very best at being the best at what I do. You know, I don't try to jump in and out of my lane, do 50 million different things. And yeah, Xyion, and what I'm most noted for is entertainment business.
Now, I remember going to see you speak at USC here in Los Angeles, and you were teaching the students there that I think may have been a part of a music program a bit about artist management and sort of a little background on what you were doing. And one of the things that really stuck with me was your time at the radio station and the things that you learned at school. And I'm trying to remember exactly what school that was. It may have been the university. Yeah. And I remember you breaking down just sort of how you even got into that. One of the things that often stops people from achieving the kind of success they want is finding a foot in the door. But you made your own foot in the door. Can you talk about that time you rearranged everything, I think it was, that you said, and they were like, no. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, you got a good memory, man. I just told the story of having an opportunity today. Eddie Harris, now rest his soul, he really looked out. He told me I could come in there and I could, I just wanted to be on the radio. I thought I was going to walk into the radio station and be right on the air. He was just like, yo, go over there, grab that broom for me right quick and get to using it. And so, you know, I'm like, hey, I'm going to make myself. Every day I was cleaning up, he was coming in, complimenting me. And one day it dawned on me, if I move this book over here, you're not going to be able to find this book. And he's going to need me to find it. So I just started rearranging the office, cleaning it up, but making it so hard for him to find stuff that I became the phone call away from, hey, man, what'd you do with my this call sheet? What'd you do with this log sheet? What'd you do with those vinyl that were in the back room? And they knew I didn't steal anything, but they didn't know where the business was. They knew it was super clean, and I was just cleaning up so good. So eventually, you know, I worked myself into a positioning so that I could do sales, and then sales turned into me being able to buy my own time, which turned into me having my own show, which you can't tell somebody what they're going to do when they buy their own way on. And that was me learning the spirit of distribution, but on the radio. You know, I didn't know what distribution was.
And then at some point you decided to take a trip to Los Angeles, or was it,
I was raised in LA. No, I was raised in LA.
Okay.
You know, originally from St. Louis, but raised in LA, kind of back and forth here all my life. But this has been home more than anywhere else, other than the fact that my mom's still in St. Louis. My family there as well. You know, my twin is there. Shout out to Damon. That's my guy. But you know, you get a dirty version of me full on if you ever see him. So I always tell people, they're getting the psych out and then they're getting the truth out of him. I'm the psych out.
Okay.
He'll love to hear that.
And now, at what point did you, from the radio station, start to take that off into something that you saw as a feasible career in entertainment beyond just the radio station? I know at some point you landed with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Was that really where things opened up?
I saw Benny and Will on a cover of Ebony magazine, but keep in mind when I was at the radio station, I was there all in. Like I try to tell people, when you come do a job with me, come all in, because you never know the opportunities that are going to come from it. But there's always an opportunity coming from it. And people who have worked with me have gone on to win prestigious awards like Emmys, Grammys. I say to people, hey, man, go all in with what you're going to do. And then everything's going to come from it. So when I was going all in and trying to be the very best DJ, come to find out, the relationships at the record companies, they all are asking me to play their records. Well, I'm also getting a relationship with you at the record company. It's not just play your record. Play your record is get to know you, is know how the business works at your company, and be in a position to win with you.
So people have won awards working with you. And that's one of the benefits of being all in, all hands on deck, as you like to say. So when you went from the radio station and you were building these relationships with these record labels and getting to know the people, what prompted you to know that you should be doing more than just playing the songs they tell you to do? Was it just in your nature, or did something occur to you that this might be the way to go?
I just really am a people person. When like Mike Jones, God rest him, Mark Boyd really took me under his wing. And Mark was working for a company called EMI. And in that era, EMI had a guy named Jazzo who they had just signed. He was really excited because he was like, look, we're no longer going to do only R&B. Even though he was bringing me all these R&B artists, said, we got this opportunity, this kid Jazzo. And, if you know anything about the hip hop industry, this was Jazzo and Hawaiian Sophie introducing Jay-Z. And Mark was like, I'm going to bring Jazzo by. I'm going to introduce you to him. And that was big, to be in the middle of nowhere and have a nationally known talent whose video is playing on the, video outlets, coming to my station to hang out with me, to see me. That was just huge. So I started to understand the repertoire, and then I got my cut. Like I would work it with very small incrementally. Like if I'm playing your record, Delicious Vinyl, then I want you to give my cousin an internship. And then I would beg my cousin, go down there and at least check it out and see if it's something we should look at. Because he was working, I felt like I was working. And again, that came with being a part of a team. Wasn't just about me. It was like, we can make it make sense. And so I was just always about meeting people, finding out what it was that they loved about what they did, and how could we intersect.
That's brilliant that you did that, because most people are all about themselves and trying to take all the opportunities. And it's very rare for someone in business to, and you were an entrepreneur even then in that way, where you said, okay, I need to put one of my other people in. I need to get a troop into the castle there and make sure that we hold that fort down in the event that this fort falls apart. And just that level of strategy so early on is really telling of the kind of entrepreneur that you are, right? And it's a lesson that I think we want to highlight here, making sure that people who are listening understand how valuable it is to think in that way, to put your people on, because your people will keep you on as long as you keep them on. So moving a little forward from there, at some point, things start to bubble and grow. And again, you get to meet Benny, and he was running things with, and I don't want to tell the story for you. That's what I'm trying to ask you.
Oh, well, yeah, eventually it comes full circle after having a tenure with Paul Stewart, working for Hits Magazine, having worked for Stephen Rifkin. Then I was hired by Amanda Demi and Happy Walters, which was an incredible opportunity, which was an independent company that was doing geniusly well. It was a matter of, how do I find my way? And I just really wanted to be an A&R guy. I really wanted to, be able to say I did it at the highest level. And one day I got an opportunity, a chance, meeting, learning that Warner Brothers was looking for A&R people. Thanks to Dan Charnas and Peter Edge for putting me in the game with that one. Dan at the time was one of my closest friends, and interestingly enough, my A&R guy as an artist signed to American. I'll pregnant pause on that one. And then, Dan was like, you should think about maybe taking a job at Warner Brothers. And, I got a chance to meet and speak with Benny Medina, and he was the head of Warner. And, what a prestigious positioning, because I didn't know his story. And the reality is he was a real history lesson and legend, a living legend, and still is to this day. But he showed me that this business is so many layers and so many things, but still, you have to work twice as hard to be heard and seen in the room. And he, gave me the chance to really do my thing. And my outreach at the label was, go talk to all the companies, meet the people at the companies, Adrian, before you sign anything, understand what we need, figure out your lane. And it was just all this compiled things. And if you think about it, Warner was in that era, was the top of the food chain for all the business at hand. Talking about Sire Records. I'm talking about Elektra. I'm talking about Atlantic, American, Tommy, Cold Chillin'. List goes on and on and on and on. It was so many different companies. And I had access to play in any of the playing fields because I worked for Warner Brothers proper. And I was an A&R person at the company. So I could go have a conversation with a remix on Seal, or I could be talking to my cousin who I got the job at Delicious, who had a production company by this time at Tommy Boy, about his group, the Jazzy Fat Nasties. Because keep in mind, he was responsible for and had a lot to do with getting his own business accomplished and moving at Tommy Boy. And you talk about a wonderful era of just proliferation of just so many of us getting jobs and being in the right rooms. I couldn't have told you in a billion years that this job would have paid what it paid, or I would have been in the position I was in. But wow, what an opportunity for a youngster. And I lived right up the street from there at the time. So I was real super close. It was just genius, man. I'm working with Sir Mix-a-Lot on one hand over here and on another hand over here, Karen White, Prince, Shaka Khan. I mean, Bob James, you name the individual, I have access to him. I would have had length conversations with Dan, Mark Didia, and Rick Rubin, and I talk about being a fly on the wall. Mo Austin, Benny would say, hey, Mo wants you to come up to his office, and Lenny Walker would talk me into a corner, into a frenzy. And I can remember, Michael being there, Michael Austin being there when his dad was sitting there telling us, this is the way we used to do things when Frank Sinatra was doing it. And it's like, what? And so I think I learned really quick how to just do things a different way. And I got a chance to just absorb and be a sponge. And man, it was a fascinating time. I always say I'll never forget those times in that era of my life,
Somewhere during that whole frenzy, you had caught on with a great fashion trend for hip hop artists and music videos rocking the A hat. What's the story behind that? How did that come around?
Again, it was one of those things where if I just told you about everything, we'd be here for the rest of the night. There were so many start stops and things that we would have never thought kept going, but they would go perpetually and up until even now. And the A-hat was something that was just really my contribution to hip hop. My love affair with hip hop didn't stop or start with just the music. It also went into fashion. Like I said, it was how we spoke, it was how we dressed, it was how we were. And, you know, at the time, I was in a business relationship with my girlfriend, and we were, trying to build a business. It was going great while we were together. And then not so much when we decided to split up. But I had already done all this covert marketing. I mean, we were making product and merchandise for Ice Cube, for Tupac. I mean, Naughty by Nature, everybody was really rocking the hats. At some point, you could see anybody from the hooligans, like they were just starting off. They weren't even the hooligans, and they were rocking outerwears. So it's so funny. I had a story told to me the other day from Gavin O'Connor about my business partner now, Max Goose. And Gavin goes, I haven't even told Max this story. Gavin goes, oh, I gave Max's son, Miles, an A-hat. And I was like, when did you give it to him? Like, I'm thinking recently, because Miles is like 25-ish maybe. And he goes, he was a baby in the crib with the A-hat. And I go, Miles had just asked me for, like, to get on with us? I was like, oh, man, come on. I can't wait to see this. Like, I sent him a picture. And that was before, we had the instant cameras and stuff. So to hear those kind of conversations in the room and to know that things were happening without me. There was a movie called Planet with Hats or something. It was a Rusty Cundiff film. And it was all about these hats. And they wore A-hats throughout the whole movie. I had no idea or concept like it was going to go that hard. But yeah, I mean, it went that hard and then some. And you talk about heartbroken. I went through a really heartbreaking stage in life, but it's almost as if you got to go through those parts to get to the other side. So I don't love lawsuits, but I try to tell people by the time you're in a lawsuit, if you lost big, but the lesson is going to be as large, and I don't want to talk about any personal dealings with lawsuits and stuff like that, but I have never lost, whether someone has taken me to court or I have had to take someone to court. I don't enjoy that, but if I'm going to go to battle, believe you me, I'm going to go over prepared. And I'm about studying and acknowledging things that other people miss. So I pick my pace up and I pay attention to details so that I don't have to do it later. Like I find it's easier to break out record in a paperwork piece from something that you studied and had from day one versus you didn't do the business at hand. You miss a bunch,
No, you brought up a super important lesson. I think like it's fun listening to all the success and all the interesting things that you've done. There is the other side of it where in the middle of all that, someone is going to say, hey, you know what? There might be a hole in this opportunity here and I'm going to flex and see what happens. And no business owner, no entrepreneur has matured until they've had at least one of those happen to them at the highest levels. And so the fact that you bring it up, I think is a really valuable lesson. Just bringing it up and letting people know, like, get your paperwork right as early as possible. Someone once told me documentation beats conversation 99% of the time.
Get your game to you. Real way.
And I never forgot it. No, so I want to transition over because, like you said, we could talk about the stories of the game forever. And I know we don't have that kind of time, at least not yet. So why don't we move over into what Xyion is doing today? I know that you're working on a couple of things right now with the Black Lives Matter grassroots T-shirt. Maybe we can start there and then elaborate a little further.
Yeah, well, it's a commemorative 10-year anniversary that celebrates, the starting and inception with Black Lives Matter. Now we're celebrating Black Lives Matter grassroots. I want to say congratulations to Dr. Melina Abdullah, who's now on the card for vice president with Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West. This opportunity came because she believed in what I was saying about what we could do to help really bring awareness to Black Lives Matter grassroots as a cause. And, my whole point was allow me to put the messengers out there in front of it and let's go to work. And she said, Adrian, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but go ahead, do you. And I just brought it back full circle. So now people actually are learning that what we're really just doing is giving them an opportunity to participate by buying a t-shirt, participate by getting themselves a commemorative t-shirt celebrating the 10 years that have gone by from the start of why Black Lives Matter started, to the people behind it that are the grassroots part of the organization, to Gumbo, who have become the new messengers, to Chuck D, who has passed the torch and told the story of everything in front of us, to Sway, who has given us the platform for the story that's told, that's in front of us, that's been a part of the beginning of the inception of the 10-year anniversary. And now, with all that said, I simplify it by simply saying it's merch. It's an artist merch initiative. Plus. Artists plus merchandise plus an initiative. So we meet a cause with the opportunity to be a part of it. And we encourage, I don't want to say fans, we encourage others to be a part of it by participating. And, you know, when they say buy black, I ain't never lied about it. And I don't mean buy black, I mean buy back. Buy back into what is important, buy back into our history, buy back into our community, buy back into the art that we once knew and loved and showed a desire to be a part of.
No, it's powerful. There's a lesson in economics that I think is lost in a lot of the, like I'm the millennial generation. I'm not sure where you fall on the spectrum there. You look young, so you know I'm not gonna put you out there like that.
Get your water. I'm 54.
So okay, you look great for 54, man. We look the same age.
You gotta be healthy, baby. We are the same.
Exactly. And so what I was saying was, you bring up a really valid lesson in economics of where to buy into and where to put your money, voting with your dollar. It's something that a lot of people in particular, like I was saying, in my generation, you know, we talk about doing it. Not everybody, right? A lot of people talk about doing it, and then we'll still go buy from Starbucks instead of the local coffee shop that might support the mom and pop. And this is what you're getting at with the Black Lives Matters grassroots, if I'm understanding this correctly, is that you're supporting not only an artist that designed the whole thing, you're also getting merchandise, which then creates distribution of the message, which then emphasizes the cause or the incentive that's behind it all. Is this accurate?
100%. And make no mistake about it, you know, the artist merch initiative can go in a lot of different directives. For now, this is the directive. For now, this is what we are doing. And for now, it's beneficial to the others, the fans, the community, the audience, Black Lives Matter grassroots, and Gumbo. And the artists behind Gumbo that helped create the piece, Tristan Child and Tony Magnetic, really helped bring it home in terms of the design. So we've been working really hard, man. This hasn't been an overnight success story. Props off to Gumbo, because, you know, you talk about creating an album that basically started in the heart of COVID. So it's been going a minute since before we could put this into the marketplace, which we did April 5th. And you buy a t-shirt, you get a record for free. And people are really taking heed to it, and they're loving it. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, let's do it again, and let's do it again, let's do it again. And that's kind of what's happening right now. Sway gave us the platform, which was an unbelievable opportunity. For me to be able to speak to you, honestly, is an unbelievable opportunity.
And now I think one of the best ways to close out our conversation, because this is something I think you're going to be uniquely qualified for, is you've seen a lot of successful people across your career, and you've managed and worked with a lot of really successful people who have all the qualities that an entrepreneur should have, right? Whether it's, grit, whether it's strategic thinking, creative thinking, you name the quality, they have it. And you've seen all this go down, right? So if you just had to think about it for a second, what is the idea of reinvention? Because sometimes people get caught in their head and they say, maybe this is the last thing I'll do. What else do I have on the line for me? You know, I mean, I think I've done about all I can do. But you've never struck me as the kind of person that just stops. The minute you've done one thing, you're already on to the next. So having seen the people you've seen, worked with, and managed the people that you've managed, when the idea of reinvention and choosing a new path and knowing what it's going to take, What does that look like for you? What are some things that you want people to consider as they face choosing a fork down the road that they don't know anything about yet?
Hmm. I am really like a hummingbird mentality when it comes to life and how we continue. But I also believe that if you work hard, you got to play hard. And there's no intersection where you can't continue to win while you grow. You stop growing, you inevitably are not growing, and therefore you die. So it's grow or die. It's not very hard to figure out. We all have to have an aptitude for a starting point and a finishing point. But I think health is extremely important. I think that having your heart in the right place, your ethics and your morals and your energy, so it's a lot of other things that go into how we dispel the case study for reinvention of ourselves. And I think that if you are who you are and you've done all this setup, stacked one brick on top of the other, you're going to come up with a wall that nothing can stop. That's kind of how I was taught. I don't know how to teach anybody how to do anything any different. I know every day I get up and with the intention of being a better version of myself. It all comes to you. You could stand still. And I tell a story that I meant to make sure that I told here, and I almost forgot to tell it. There's a guy that stands on the corner of Hollywood and Cahuenga. He's in front of the Popeye's Chicken if you're in LA or if you're in Hollywood. And I've seen this guy for years in the rain, and heat. He'll have a jacket or a coat on, always a jacket or a coat. He's never not without it. He might be sagging real hard. A brother. He's been around forever, kind of panhandling out there on that corner. Now, you can walk by him. He may not ask you for anything. He may say, can you spare a little energy? But he doesn't ever ask for money. And people give him food. People give him money all day long. One day I asked him, I said, hey, man, how are things? How's your heart? He's like, man, that's interesting you would ask that. He's like, I'm good. I'm providing for my family. I'm not stepping on anyone's toes. And I feel like I'm staying in my lane. And I said, wow. Now, I was told by one of the business owners near us that he's not homeless. He's probably not balling, but he's sending money back to his family in Haiti. And I'm like, wow. And you think about somebody with consistency. You stand still long enough, consistency is a mathematical equation, and you have to give props to that. So everybody wants to go so fast and burn out. I don't know that that's not your calling in life, but I definitely know it's not mine. And I'm about taking my time, moving with a tortoise speed and enjoying life, man. We have this life. We should enjoy it together.
Such a powerful story, especially because you first brought up the idea of like, if you get your character right and the inside work is being done and you're healthy and you finally have this, like you said, now you can stand still and grow up vertically, which will help you see over the horizon. And as things are coming, you can pick and choose what you want to be a part of, but only when you're consistent in the development of the inside game. Is this what I'm understanding?
Yeah, and I also got to add, just because I walked out of the bank to come sit in the parking spot that I'm in, I just talked about life and the equation. There's a young man, God rest his soul, John. John decided to move out of the bank when there was someone outside shooting many, many, many years ago. Same place where I'm parked right now. His car was parked. He had to go pick up a friend from the airport. And he deemed it necessary. He's like, that fool ain't going to do nothing to me. He went and got in his car and the guy shot him in the head. God rest his soul. Nicest guy in the world. Always about helping others. He was just really a pivotal person in the whole community. So our hearts really were crushed when we heard about that incident. And, it was on the news that the guy was out here shooting everybody. The police took him down. It was a done deal. He didn't survive that day. Now we're at the corner of Vine and Hollywood. I do a lot of moving around in Hollywood. In my past things, we were doing an event with Anderson on La Brea, and there was an art exhibit, photographer's artwork. And obviously this photographer was on the ground when that happened to John. And nobody had seen what happened to John. He took a picture of John slumped over in his Mercedes, and the guy laid out in the street. It was very, very graphic. Nothing I would ever want anybody to have to see. But the thing was, he was like displaying this as art. I don't know what that means, but I do understand something about how art imitates life, how we don't know what's a part of what and how things are intertwined and connected, or how that connected. If they saw that up in the window on the bridge, that picture of the guy slumped over in Mercedes, who wouldn't have put it together. But I'm literally sitting in the same place as his car right now, telling this story. So that gives me the greatest closure. Yeah, the greatest closure and an opportunity right now, because he was a very strong entrepreneur in the entertainment business.
We never really know how old we really are, do we?
There it is.
Adrian, honestly, it was a pleasure. I hope this isn't the last time. I know you got stories for days, so maybe we'll get up and do something live and in person, some better gear or something. But it really was very, yeah, it really was awesome. It really was awesome to be able to link with you and hear some of your stories and hear about the initiatives you're currently working on, and just put your name in the ears of the people who are doing business on this side of town that need to understand the level of impact that you've had and where you're heading out right now and what you're looking at, because sometimes these worlds don't seem to cross enough. And I think that if they did, a lot more would happen in terms of flourishing and creating impact, because that's what entrepreneurs do. They create jobs, they create opportunities, they create impact. And that's what you've done in spades. So thank you for stopping by.
With gratitude.